This video shows a pelvis and a rib cage that are not stacked while performing a squat. The result of this is usually low back pain and or low back discomfort. Now, if you are looking to avoid this, but not really get into all the nitty-gritty of the biomechanics and the angles and every single detail, that's okay. I get it. It can be completely overwhelming. Do I love teaching that stuff? Yes, but I do understand it can become really overwhelming. So what I want to do in this video is to give you 3 quick tips to help you immediately start to stack the pelvis under the rib cage. You're not going to have to understand a ton of biomechanics. You're not going to need to know certain angles and positions. We're just going to go over 3 simple tips. That way, if your squat looks like that, if there's a big disconnect between your rib cage and pelvis, then you can apply these strategies and immediately start to either get out of pain or prevent pain from coming from a poor squat. Tip number 1 that we can immediately implement is switching from a barbell back squat to a safety bar back squat. A barbell back squat, the second you get into that racked position, it automatically pulls you in this rib cage flared forward in an anterior pelvic tilt. This is driving that dysfunction and the movement hasn't even started yet. Now, when you start to go down because of that position, it's really easy to maintain a poorly stacked position and start to move horizontally compared to vertically. So we can substitute a safety bar back squat. And if your gym doesn't have this, go for a front squat. What happens is when we change that position to this forwards position, we immediately bring the rib cage back. We start to bias a little bit of a posterior pelvic tilt, and it's going to create more of a vertical squat. That verticality is going to help us stay out of our low back. So recap, switch your barbell back squat for a safety bar squat or any sort of front squat variation. The second tip that we can immediately implement is a slant board, specifically elevating our heels. Here's what happens. When you elevate the heels, it actually pushes you slightly forwards. But how the body responds is with a slight posterior pelvic tilt. Don't worry about any of that. Just recognize that it shifts the pelvis and the center of mass back. When we have a center of mass that is more back, it's going to allow us to remain more vertical and not move horizontally. All of these things are going to help us keep a stacked position where the rib cage is over the pelvis and move vertically so our low back stays relaxed. Recap for tip number 2, add a slant board to elevate your heels during your squats. And tip number 3 that we can implement immediately is to stop pushing back, but instead sitting down. What I mean is that it's really common for someone to get into any sort of squat variation and think about pushing back. The problem with pushing back is that it reinforces everything we've just talked about in the first 2 tips, and that is it produces a horizontal movement. Anytime we start to move horizontally, we're going to bias this rib cage flared, pelvis anteriorly oriented, this big disconnect. Instead, what you want to think about is sitting straight down. Here's the thing. You want to sit straight down and push your knees forwards. What happens here is the forwards position of the knees and the straight down really keeps you back. It's going to allow you to get true movement from the legs and not compensatory false motion from your spine. Recap for tip number 3, think about sitting down instead of pushing back. And so there you have it. 3 quick tips that you can implement immediately without the medical jargon, biomechanics, exercise science, exercise physiology. So I hope you find those tips helpful and you can implement them so you can get out of back pain or make sure you don't actually start to acquire back pain. If all this is helpful, let me know in the comments what has helped you the most. Also, if you like this style, more quick tips you can implement and a little bit less of the why behind things, then let me know and I will gladly make more of them. Until then, I will see you guys on the next video.